So I see several folks from our team. Let's see. Monica, do you want to start?
Hey everybody, my name is Monica Reel. I am a project manager for OBI in the southern New Mexico regions. I oversee about 10 counties, and thanks for having us, Evan.
Yeah, thank you. Richard?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Richard Gobea. I'm another project manager with the Office of Broadband. I oversee more or less the northwest area of the state. I've been with the state working on broadband for about 7 years or so with schools, libraries, and other entities. And my background is pretty much technology and broadband with about 20 years of experience.
Thank you, Richard. Alex?
I'm Alex Trujillo. I handle technology assistance, and I work on middle mile projects for the Office of Broadband.
Thank you, Alex. So listed here, Drew Lovelace is the acting director for the Office of Broadband. Alex covers technical assistance. Monica, Richard, Jose, Eric, and Eric, they are project managers. My name is Ovidiu Viorica, and I am actually on loan to the Office of Broadband Access and Expansion. I worked for 21 years with the Public School Facilities Authority, helping all 89 school districts, approximately 100 charters, work on facilities and also infrastructure, and work on broadband infrastructure expansion, service, internet connectivity, internal networks, and so on and so forth. My background is in engineering and project and program management. I started in telecom over 26 years ago, worked on large-scale networks throughout Europe and throughout the United States. I've been in New Mexico for about 23 years. Rebecca, my wife, grew up in Tularosa, so that's how I ended up in New Mexico. So, yeah, it's easy to contact us. Email is first name, last name at connect.nm.gov, and please be proactive and reach out to us. So, what I wanted to start with today is, kind of the basics, cover a little bit of the basics of broadband. A lot of people call this the 3 A's in broadband: the accessibility, that's the infrastructure and the service to actually make the broadband available. That's possible through local investments, private investments, the broadband equity access and deployment, BEAD, state grants, so many different sources of funding. And Shauna will be first to recognize how complex it is to navigate all these different sources of funding with their requirements and so on. But it's possible, and without these different sources of funding, we just couldn't get this done because it is expensive. The affordability, the cost, is a big factor, particularly in New Mexico. New Mexico is a poor state, but there are subsidies available that help with that sustainability piece, and also the first exposure to broadband. You might have heard of the Affordable Connectivity Program, otherwise known as ACP, the Universal Service Fund, USF, that funds Lifeline and similar programs. State subsidies, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the request that we intend to make sure that the broadband is affordable. And then there is the broadband adoption, right? And this is tremendously important. Having the devices and the digital skills, and I'm not talking about access, having a smartphone, second hand, third hand, whatever, that some of the families are able to afford. I'm talking about the right device for the right use. So cell phones have their use, but tablets, laptops, desktops, they're all important in actually accessing the broadband in an efficient way. And there is an entire Digital Equity Act that it goes along with the infrastructure investment. And that is tremendously important because we may be able to build all these networks, but if nobody uses them, then all this effort is for nothing. So maybe some of you or all of you will find this silly, but we'd like to cover, what is broadband? And because a lot of people just, think, oh, that's a trick question, because they are afraid of broadband. And broadband, I mean, there are many definitions out there. I know some people say broadband is, the ability to connect with loved ones through Zoom or make, meetings like this possible. It is, I like the definition of being a transmission technique, right? So it's the way of sending zeros and ones across different equipment and other infrastructure from point A to point B and back. And I have listed the elements of the broadband network here. I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but you have long haul fiber, you have middle on the right-hand side. So those are paths between large connectivity centers, Salt Lake City, Dallas, Denver, Albuquerque, and so on. And then you have the middle mile fiber, the middle mile network, and then you have the local, otherwise known as last mile, that connects just the individual households. And that can be done with wireline, that can be done with towers, antennas, and receptors. It can be done with several different technologies, and really these technologies, we are technology agnostic, and we want to say that to begin with. But fiber optic is the recognized long-term solution that is scalable, and it has the longevity and the ability to scale for future needs. So by the way, I'd like to invite you to stop, raise the hand, or just unmute and jump in if you see anything that you have a question on. So please just chime in, and again, I'd like for this to be a conversation. So the broadband technologies, you probably heard about this many times: fiber to the premise, cable, that is basically coax cable, and DSL, and pretty much legacy broadband over copper lines that doesn't have a lot of capacity or scalability, and it's really distance bound. Fixed wireless, that means the receiver is affixed to a location, to the house or to the building or to something like that. In mobile wireless, the cellular phones that we carry with us, they have quite high broadband capabilities, particularly for 5G, but there are limitations related to that technology as well, such as the distance and propagation and so on and so forth. I see Monica with her hand up. Monica?
Hey, Ovi, right now may not be the time, but when you were asking for people to jump in, I think what might be helpful is explaining to folks how we can help them. To your great point, you said you want people to not hesitate to reach out to our offices, but I've come into contact with some folks that have no idea what we offer or why they would reach out to us.
Yeah, well, do you want to Monica, since you've experienced that before, and you work directly with different groups of folks. What do you want to mention what our team offers?
Well, I'll say from experience, I've had counties reach out related to our current grant, which is offering up to $100,000 for planning, engineering, and grant writing. And they've reached out to ask, how they can make the best or the most out of their application. And a lot of times these folks they're not sure what's going on in their counties with regard to broadband, but they know that they need it. They know it's important. I've also been asked to help with some issues that projects have run into that have nothing to do with state funding. They've been otherwise federally funded projects working with the USDA. And so sometimes we can look at an issue that has to do with fiber or internet or broadband or high-speed internet and offer some solutions or help make connections between stakeholders. Also, we've got great team members like Alex and Ovi and our other project managers that have different areas of expertise, whether it's technology within libraries. So a lot of times you can reach out to us to ask for, issues related to tech. You need an extra set of eyes to look at plans, or we can help facilitate that beginning approach, the entry point to what high-speed internet could look like in your community. So really just anything. Feel free to reach out for the smallest of things or the greatest of things.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great point, Monica. And the way I would summarize this is that our team is growing because of just the large volume of work. Has a broad array of areas of expertise that we can assist you with, and I'd like you to think about our team as free of charge to you advisors to translate and sometimes the confusing lingo surrounding the broadband world, as well as navigating the oftentimes maze of processes that someone has to go through in order to apply for funding or submit a project or develop a project or receive funding and so on and so forth. I hope that makes sense. And I truly hope that you are going to reach out to us. We would love to work with everybody all the time, but it's just not. There are only so many hours in the day, honestly, and there are so many strands and lanes that we have to work on in parallel that it's truly difficult to touch all these the necessary touch points all the time. So it's not that we ignore you, it's just that we're every day dealing with a long list of emergencies. So on this slide, I wanted to talk a little bit about the broadband plans and the why related to broadband. And I mean, you heard this before. It touches everything. It supports education and economic development, and it supports telehealth and involvement and growth and everything. But since Evan mentioned the kind of the economic development piece, I want to just mention a big number as the reason why. So a recent economic study was by an economic professor determined what is kind of the unrealized potential for that comes with lack of access to high-speed internet. And for New Mexico, that is $20 million per month. That is the estimated unrealized potential for the economic growth that comes with New Mexicans not having access to high-speed connectivity. So it's a big number, and that is the reason why we have to be expeditious about this work. We have to be focused, and we really have to solve this problem, because without solving this problem, in my opinion, there is no future economic growth possible in the state, and we're going to continue to lag behind other states in many indicators. So there are for the plans, there are a lot of plans out there, and it can get very confusing. So there you have the regional plans sometimes, and you have the county plans, and you have the state broadband plan, and there is the BEAD plan and process. So what is, I'm not going to speak much about the regional plan, but I'll speak about the state broadband plan and goal. That is the plan that was required in legislation. It made sense, right? Everybody wanted to see a plan on how the state is going to go about taking care of the broadband problem. So this 3-year plan is set in statute, the statute that created the Office of Broadband Access and Expansion. And it lists, you can go and you can find it online, but it has, 4 major goals. The first goal is universal availability of high-speed, scalable broadband networks. So basically, that availability piece, everybody should have access to high-speed broadband. The second goal, major goal, is widespread adoption and meaningful usage of the internet, and that's the digital equity and the affordability that I was talking about earlier. Because again, you can have the broadband available, but if nobody uses it, or a large segment of the population does not use it safely or effectively, then all this work is for nothing, and it's truly not sustainable. Advancement of next generation statewide networks. I'll talk a little bit about the statewide education network. It's a large effort that is that our team has been working on for the last 2 years. We're making progress. We are on the cusp of turning up a network that is going to connect all the schools together into secure internet as the foundation to building on more resources and other things that will benefit our educational system. And the fourth goal, program stewardship, that is, utilizing the funding effectively in a transparent way, and showing that we are, taking good care of the funding that is entrusted to this office, and it's quite a bit of money, and that we're making good use of that funding to actually do the right type of work. And it's not us; it's in collaboration with industry and counties, municipalities, right? So it's a collaborative effort. But Office of Broadband is charged with the stewardship for this funding. Then there is the Broadband Equity, Access, and Deployment, BEAD. That is the process that was put in place by the Infrastructure Act and dedicated $42.5 billion to invest in infrastructure, because for the last decade or two, there has been investment in broadband and broadband access and subsidies to different entities, yet we have large segments of the population who are not connected, who do not have access to reliable and scalable and adequate broadband service. So what is BEAD? And I'm going to focus a little bit about on BEAD because it is the single largest investment from the federal government right now, going on right now. It has a very short time frame. So through the BEAD program, New Mexico received $675 million allocation. The money's not here, right? And it's not going to be here for another year or so. But the New Mexico Office of Broadband and the state as a whole has to go through certain steps to actually secure that funding. And I'll explain these steps a little bit. But the money, that $675 million, that includes also a component for the matching that is set at 25%. So when it's all said and done, it's probably closer to $750 million to a $1 billion program in the near future, is intended to connect to facilitate the deployment of infrastructure for three major priorities, right? The first one, connect all unserved locations. What's unserved? Speeds below, or no infrastructure at all, or infrastructure that can only deliver speeds below 25 megabits per second download and 3 megabits per second upload. I mean, that's the fancy way of saying 25, being able to send or receive, remember that transmission point, send or receive 25 million zeros and ones in 1 second, or so download that or upload 3 million zeros and ones every second. That's what that number represents. Underserved is the second priority. Speeds below 100 megabits per second by 20. And the third priority is all the community anchor institutions having access to infrastructure that is above 1 gigabit per second symmetrical, right? Download and upload. So these are the three priorities. The expectation is that the $675 million is going to be sufficient to connect, hopefully, all the unserved, what's highlighted here. We don't think that is going to be sufficient to go for the underserved or for the community anchor institutions. We have to find additional sources of funding to cover that. So I'm going to, there's already quite a bit of information here, so I'm going to pause and ask, do you have any questions about this so far? Okay. Well, I'll keep going. So how the funding is supposed to be allocated is based on the National Broadband Map that is published by the Federal Communication Commission. And already there is a little bit of a disconnect, because the BEAD program is managed by one federal agency, the National Telecommunication and Information Administration, NTIA, and then the broadband map, the National Broadband Map, is the Federal Communication Commission, right? So two federal agencies that manage two important components of this very large program. All right, so I think some of you saw this, and I like to show this because it kind of tells the story. This is a depiction of the locations that we know about that are on that map. Red is unserved. Also, the teal, turquoise teal in those black boundaries, that's also unserved, but it's just slightly different designation. These are high-cost areas, about 10,000 locations, broadband serviceable locations. You're going to hear this a lot, BSL. That represents a house, that represents a business, that represents sometimes a community anchor institution that is small, that subscribe to certain types of broadband. So it's basically unserved is below 25.3, and that is the first priority, right? In that, how the money is going to be used. New Mexico is obligated to develop projects that are going to connect every single one of these red dots. That's the requirement for receiving that $675 million is New Mexico has to develop a list of projects that will connect, through wired connections or wireless connections. And there are some rules around that. Connect every single red and teal dot on this map. And there are some inaccuracies that we're still working to correct. For example, this northwest corner, luckily this has been corrected. And I can show you a map on how it currently looks like, and it's nothing like what is depicted on this one. So we are working right now to still true up the number of dots and the color of the dots. Make sense? All right, then I'll keep going. So the steps, right, for the broadband equity, access, and deployment. Again, we're talking about this large program, $675 million plus some state funding potentially. There are, again, several components to it. Evan alluded to the initial proposal, Volume 1. The Volume 1 that was open for public comment until recently basically covers the process for the challenge to true up this map right here, right? Because we're going to go through the steps and we have to true up this to the largest extent possible and at some point, sometime, and I'll show you a time frame, a timeline, sometime next spring, we're going to say, these are the red dots that are eligible for the $675 million. That's it. And now let's develop projects. So that is the initial proposal, Volume 1. The New Mexico Office of Broadband developed this, wrote this this proposal, headed out for comment, and now we are doing tweaks because it needs to be submitted to NTIA here in the coming weeks. The mapping information, that those red dots and yellow dots and blue dots representing the unserved, the underserved, and community anchor institutions, we are in the process currently of reconciling all these dots with funding already received. And those are, again, many sources of funding. Connect America Fund, Rural Digital Opportunity Fund, USDA Tribal Broadband Connectivity Program, and New Mexico Pilot Program is the most recent one that the Office of Broadband managed directly, right? That resulted in about $190 million worth of work, funded projects, covering about 26,000 broadband serviceable locations. So the target to kind of finalize this first pass, we've been working on this map for the last year, and there is still, this is going to continue to go on, right, for forever. The Federal Communication Commission is going to maintain this map, the National Broadband Map, to make sure that everybody's access to broadband infrastructure is known at the location level, right? Every single dot, every single location. That target date is December 8th. And that is when we're going to say, this is, we took out all the funded projects, and these are the red dots that are remaining that will likely be targeted by the BEAD funding. Make sense? And Alex put in the chat that there is an upcoming grant program that is expected to be published in December, making available $70 million for another round of infrastructure to basically chip away at the problem. Because again, we want to make sure that the funding that we have available really addresses every single location, every single dot there. Alex.
Yeah, I just thought I'd take a moment to kind of sort of bring it back to what Evan asked, and that is because you've done such a good job putting all this together. Let's talk for 1 minute about what you just talked about, which is the mapping, right? Because there's $70 million going to be available very, very soon, right? We're not talking months away. We're talking weeks away for your communities to apply for broadband funding, or for your organizations to apply for broadband funding. You know, Donna, you know what this process is. Donna Venable from CDEC, I saw on the call. You know, this is an opportunity for all of you guys that are on this call to take a look at our maps that are published publicly and see where the gaps in coverage are. And also take a moment to step back and say, well, I know, for instance, that there's an area in Farmington that's showing that it's covered and it's not, right? And you can partner with people like Continental Divide Electric Cooperative and their ISP Red Bull to apply for up to $100,000 to write a grant application for that $70 million. So not only are we telling all of you guys on this call that there's money available for broadband, we're saying partner with someone, find a grant writer, find an engineering firm, find any resources you can, because this is generational money and it's going to change the face of your community. So I really, really want all of you guys to think about that. I'm going to put my mobile phone in the chat, and you can call me anytime between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. and I will help you fill out this one-page application, because I want every community in the state to participate in this. I want every community. You know, this is a big deal. I'm from New Mexico. I grew up in Belen. I went to school in Las Cruces. Like, I've worked in broadband for 25 years. I've owned my own ISP. I will help you get through this process, right? That is my #1 goal on attending calls like this. And I'm just excited for everybody on the call. I hope you guys take advantage of it. I'll put my mobile in the call. Sorry to interrupt, Ovi. I just wanted to throw that out there.
No, I love the passion, and no better way to articulate the level of urgency, but also the level of opportunity that exists out there. It's, you know, once in a generation. Alex knows the state and knows this business, and again, Alex and all the other project managers are available. I am available to help you, walk alongside you, to take advantage of these opportunities. So just quickly, here's the Connect New Mexico, connect.nm.gov website. Right here, grant writing, engineering, and planning is open right now. That is that is up to $100,000. It's later in the slides. There is also the initial proposal, volume 1. Here's where you can find, and you can connect. You can look at the data. The data hub has so much mapping information. So this is real time, right? Here you can say, I have slow internet. I want to challenge the maps. I represent a tribal community. I want to view the digital equity map. And here's the service availability status. This is not the FCC, but it's based on the FCC map. And here, I want to pull up your area and just live demonstration about the map and how to use that. So service available, obviously the red dots are emphasized for just they are not up to scale, right? But you can look at the county, and let's say we're looking for San Juan County, and here is, you know, that version that I was talking about, that corner, it was all blue. In reality, is a lot of red and yellow and very little blue, right? And actually, we're working directly with the Navajo Nation to add dots that are missing from the map. But it's a tedious process. It's an involved process, right? It's a process, and we just have to go through it. Does that make sense? So now here is the national broadband map, the FCC's version, right? So this covers the entire state, the entire nation, and it's polygons, right? And as you zoom in, you actually you look at the broadband serviceable locations, these actual dots, and you can put, turn on the satellite here and actually look. This is Kirtland, right? The Kirtland area. And here you have fixed broadband, you have mobile broadband, and they have slightly different definitions. So here you can pick the technologies. Wired and licensed fixed wireless, for example, count for BEAD above 25.3. And things are still green, right? So basically what this means is that these locations are considered served or above 25.3. They are not eligible for any BEAD funding. So if this information is wrong, basically organizations, individuals need to continue to challenge, because otherwise the green dots basically are not eligible for funding. And we don't know that there are missing dots. We don't know that there are dots that have the wrong color, right? Unless we are being you in the field help us determine that. Does that make sense? And absolutely, partnerships are tremendously important for the next for the future of this program. All right, so let's go back to the slides, unless you have questions. No? Okay. All right, so timeline. Let's quickly talk about the timeline. We are here where this red arrow is located. And basically, right now, we're talking about the initial proposal revisions for another few weeks until December, where this dot is. Then Office of Broadband is going to submit the initial proposals to NTIA. They're going to be reviewed, they're going to be approved. Then there is a challenge. This is the last BEAD opportunity to say for organizations in partnerships, right? So that it would be municipalities, counties, nonprofits, partnerships with internet service providers, with rural electric cooperatives and others, right? Engineering firms, etc. To say, no, the dots are wrong, and here's the documentation that the dots are actually red, or they're blue, or whatever color they have. Because at the end of that process, and is expected to be around April-May timeframe, we're going to basically close that challenge, and we're going to say, this is the list eligible for BEAD funding that you have to develop projects on. Right, and that's going to be the start of project development process. It's going to be approximately 3 months, where partnerships, nonprofits, and so on, internet service providers, etc., will develop competitive projects saying it's going to cost X amount of dollars to actually bring infrastructure, wired, wireless, depending on the rules, different rules and such, to this community, to this segment of unserved locations in this area, in my area. Does that make sense? I hope it does. It sounds like it does. I hope I didn't lose everybody. So then this is the final proposal drafting. And then there is the Office of Broadband will have to evaluate all these projects that are competitively submitted. And in the fall of next year, 2024, or thereabouts, there will be a list of projects. These are the projects selected that will be available for public comment for 30 days. And then basically we send that list of, all the red dots and how they're going to get connected. We're going to send those to NTIA. They're going to review those, and when they approve that, that's early 2025. That is when the $675 million is going to be released to New Mexico to be distributed to all these applicants who are going to build all these networks throughout the state. Make sense?
Yeah, can I walk it through real quick from
Sure.
a different kind of standpoint, which is transportation. So the COG helps the region, especially the rural communities, put together kind of a regional transportation plan that rolls up into the statewide plan. The statewide plan really helps develop the process, kind of the performance goals that we're looking for New Mexico, and kind of the process of funding. And so that becomes kind of that statewide plan, which is kind of that volume 1 and volume 2 that's being put together right now. Then we ask the folks from the community side, or the transportation engineers, or public works directors, you have 3 months to submit projects that kind of fit or meet those performance goals. In this case, getting it to the BSLs, the unserved BSLs, maybe as the strategy for the funding. And so our public works directors will submit projects that fit the overall strategy for the state. And then those become kind of the infrastructure, or the transportation, the statewide transportation improvement program, which is actually a fiscally constrained list of projects. And so again, with the 675 million, that's kind of your fiscally constrained project list. And those will be in that final proposal draft that then goes again out to the public. But at that point, you won't be getting new projects. So you'll just have that 3-month window, and I'm saying this from the provider perspective, as well as the other entities mentioned. And so again, in terms of like what's happening from the community perspective, is there's a grant writing technical assistance pot of funding that's available right now. So if you apply to it, like let's say all 3 of our counties take the lead and they apply and they get 100,000 to help develop projects, then when the actual project, development 3-month period comes out, you'll have those technical assistance people in the wings to help write those proposals to then get on the fiscally constrained list. So it's kind of like you get the grant writing, then you apply to the BEAD for a project, and potentially you could use BEAD funding maybe to even stack capital to expand projects. And is that, from a very lay person's standpoint in this, is that close?
Yeah, it is absolutely right. And thank you for walking through a process and a model that folks in this audience are probably most likely more familiar with. So you mentioned the grant writing, and yes, it's a resource that is available to all of you to develop a well-developed plan, because our project managers can help coordinate, but they can't spend the time that it takes to actually develop a fully engineered and fully costed out plan, right? That's quite involved, and we just cannot do that. But we can be resources to through that process, from the grant writing all the way to basically making sure that plan, whichever fashion it takes, is complete and ready to be submitted, which it's going to be a several months process. And Evan is absolutely right. You have to start right now to identify, are there any wrong colored dots in your community? What do we need to do to change that? For example, I'm going to meet with the mayor of Kirtland tomorrow. No, Thursday. talk about that, and because they are trying to apply for a grant writing and select an engineer to help them develop a plan for their community that hopefully is going to integrate in what the county would like to do. And that so here I wanted to briefly mention some of the the broadband models, because this is a little bit of a challenge for folks who are not familiar with how broadband works. What do we do? Who owns what? Who does what, right? And there are, I would place them three major categories of broadband model. The first one, the most common one, is internet service provider owned and operated. They build the lines, they build the towers, they operate everything, they provide the service, and subscribers pay that service monthly fee, and that's how it works. We are all familiar with the Comcast, with the CenturyLink, with T-Mobile even, or Red Bull, right? These are organizations who own and operate certain networks. Then there is the broadband model where the county or the municipality or the tribe or the nonprofit owns the infrastructure, and then they have an ISP or a third party that provide the internet connectivity over that network. And the third model is the county, the municipality, the tribe. They own and they operate the network and provide a service, and they do it all. Right, and there are advantages and disadvantages, and we can talk about specifics related to these general models. There are some variations to this, but this is for your kind of your information. This is the most common approach between who owns the infrastructure and who provides the service, and hopefully this is helpful to understand. Any questions on this broadband model? No? Okay. So Alex talked about the state funding, another round where projects may be available, $70 million starting in December, right? And we are also asking the legislature to dedicate $250 million per year for a number of years to build infrastructure, build coverage, cellular phone coverage throughout the state on all the roads, because we know that there are dead spots, and those are problematic from a safety perspective, but also for a conducting business perspective. Thank you. I noticed that. Sabrina, thank you for the participation. And I will mention that UNM Gallup is actually one of the nodes on the statewide education network that I'll briefly mention here shortly. Then there is the BEAD funding that we talked about. There is the digital equity for the classes and so on. $17 million, probably not enough, but a good amount of money. And on top of the $17 million formula funding, there will be some federal competitive funds, approximately $1.5 billion worth that hopefully you're going to pursue, so you can actually conduct classes in your communities, so people have the digital skills that they need to effectively use the internet connectivity that will become available. All right, so we looked at the mapping and the speed testing. You have the resource, the address, the web address here. The challenges, we spoke about that being ongoing. The speed test, there are technical limitations about the speed test. That's why they are not always reliable, because there are many kind of components along the way, not just the service that is being provided. So the last thing that I wanted to mention is that we are working on a statewide planned to establish first a statewide education network. The intent there is to connect all the schools together into scalable internet. We've been working with the schools to upgrade their infrastructure for the last 10 years. We're at the place where we want to take the next step for a variety of reasons. But this is a good thing for the state. It is going to be the foundation for a lot of other opportunities in terms of connectivity. There are certain nodes, one in San Juan College, one at UNM Gallup, where we are going to install equipment to connect the schools, and we're going to install connections back to Albuquerque and to the commercial internet. And this is going to happen throughout the state at all the higher ed institutions and regional schools. K-12 will connect to these nodes. So that is underway. It's targeted to become functional, early, first half of 2024. The reason this is important is because this foundation then will be available for municipalities, for counties to also basically have access to high capacity and low cost connectivity to the internet. Because the internet, after all, is networks of networks connected together. So what we're trying to do here is establish a network that is going to be connecting to other large networks in neighboring states and throughout the nation and internationally, right? That's what the internet is. So this is already underway, and you have certain nodes that are available in your communities that you'll be able to leverage in the future for connectivity needs at the regional level. Make sense?
Yeah, that's very cool to see. We've heard a lot about this, dreamed a lot about this, but to see it down, I think really hits home. I think during COVID-19, we saw the need to bring folks to the broadband, which creates some potential for housing in these communities or dormitories, like in the case of San Juan College, where there's a real opportunity in the short term for people to get connected. Obviously, these nodes, like going from Albuquerque to UNM Gallup, I'm not sure exactly the route, but New Mexico State University grants would be kind of along that route maybe, and then Navajo Technical University going across to San Juan College, Dene College. There's a couple other of those big tribal universities and community colleges that definitely would hook on well with that.
Well, I'm glad I'm glad you mentioned that, because our team is getting ready to publish the request for proposal for the second phase of this work. This work is already, the blue work here and the nodes themselves are already on the contract. We are in the final engineering stage. Again, we're going to deploy this network here shortly, but we are getting ready to release a phase 2 RFP, and New Mexico Technical University is we project to have them become a node, another node on the statewide education network. We expect to have the Dene College campus in Crown Point connect to this network as well, because these tribal colleges are becoming eligible for federal subsidies available to K-12 in libraries. So the plan is to have the K-12 schools, the libraries, and tribal schools connect to this network, take advantage of those federal subsidies. You probably heard about E-rate dollars, but then for pennies on the dollar, we can overlay a telehealth network and connect the rural clinics, and municipalities can connect to another network that's laid on top of this, leveraging the same nodes in the same type of principle. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, yeah, it really does help. Because I know like City Councilor Schaaf is on, but he's also a school board member here in the Gallup area. And I know there's a lot of dual credit stuff going on with the colleges too. UNM Gallup again is across from our medical cluster. You know, it just starts making sense when you start seeing how those key connection with your public safety, all of the libraries, how it can all kind of benefit from not only that distribution line, but also the redundancy. You know, we get a lot of cuts on I-40 that shut down Gallup and surrounding communities for however long it takes. So it's nice to see some of that redundancy come to and through our education facilities.
Right. So we talked about these regional aggregation nodes. So exactly what you're talking about, they will represent co-location space at universities and colleges for sharing the resources, and this supports the middle mile effort that all these regional networks will connect or could benefit from. So I know I'm a few minutes over the allotted time, so I apologize for that. This is the presentation that I have, but we are available for discussion or answer any questions. And if you don't have the questions right this moment, no, not to worry. Please reach out to us, and we'd be happy to work together and even come back to this group. And again, this is not going to be solved overnight, but little by little, step by step, we truly have an opportunity to solve this for New Mexico and really change the connectivity landscape for across the state. And that's what we are passionate about it. We are committed to this, and we want to work with you and alongside you to make this happen. So any comments, questions? Anybody else from our team would like to add anything to the discussion?
Thank you so much, Ovi, for taking everybody through this presentation.
Yeah, I truly hope that this is helpful. And again, it's a lot of information on it, I understand, but truly this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, and let's work together as a state to take advantage of it and make the most out of it and solve this once and for all with the sustainable solution that is going to serve the state into the future. That's my raw message for this group. And thank you for having us. Thank you for your interest in this, and thank you for organizing.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. Do you want to give a plug for the summit real quick, or because I'd love to get a delegation out of Northwest that again kind of represents the different areas or different kind of diversity of needs, I guess.
Yeah, I think we kind of skimmed over that. The Broadband Summit, December 13, Sandia Resort, I believe is the location, a full day, and you can find information at connect.nm.gov. I think there's a small registration fee. We'd love to see you there. We'd love to see your delegation. I think that most folks from our team will be present. That way you can connect with us directly, face to face. I know that is important in New Mexico for getting work done. Establishing that working relationship is extremely important, and we'd be happy to, and excited to see you at the Broadband Summit on December 13. There will be presentations from the office. Office of Broadband Access and Expansion. There will be presentations from the Federal Communication Commission, from the National Telecommunication and Information Administration and other key agencies and players in this big push toward better broadband in the state and throughout the nation.
Thanks. Hey, I saw Michael Sage was on here. Do you have anything, Michael, from the economic development, like specifically that might be missing from the conversation with Northwest? And if not, that's okay. Well, again, I just appreciate the whole team and the time. And we will definitely get this recording out to all of our board members, because I think it was really a helpful snapshot of where we're at and where we're going pretty fast. And so I think it's a really helpful pathway that you all have been able to lay out for us. Sometimes we feel like we're out in the hinterlands and we're not sure, but when I see that 20 million a month, I'm figuring 15 million of that's Northwest lost economic productivity. So we definitely want to close the gap for our region. Appreciate your team and the enthusiasm. It's obvious that you all, sometimes New Mexico falls behind, but it sounds like you guys are catching up and trying to even lead the race. So we appreciate that for our state. So thanks, everybody.
Well, thank you all. Have a great rest of the day. And again, please reach out.
Yeah, thank you.